Murder is falling. Violent crime is falling. Even property crime is falling. In fact, 2025 might be the third straight year of record-setting declines in murder in the United States. So why isn't this front-page news? In this episode of Aggregated, we're breaking down the mid-year numbers behind what's looking like a historic drop in crime in the United States. Welcome to another episode of Aggregated, your newest hub for information on crime data, trends, and analysis. If this is your first time with us, I'm your host, Albert Lawrence. Let's dive in. In our last episodes, we talked about the history of crime data in the U.S. and a new tool changing how we track it month to month, the Real-Time Crime Index, or RTCI. Today, we're putting it to work, along with a few other key sources, to break down what we've seen in the first half of 2025. Why use these sources? Because the FBI just published data for 2024. That means national crime estimates are at least 7 or as much as 18 months out of date. Fortunately, we know that sources like the RTCI, Gun Violence Archive, and Center for Disease Control track closely with eventual FBI numbers, so we can already speak to trends for 2025. Before we jump in, it's important to remember that this data is preliminary, subject to change, and uses a sample of reported crime throughout the United States to accurately extrapolate the nation's trend. Now that the caveats are out of the way, let's take a look at what the data says about crime in 2025. As I mentioned earlier, crime is falling in the United States, continuing a trend that started in 2023 and 2024. We see this across multiple sources. For one, in the RTCI national sample made up of around 400 law enforcement agencies representing more than 90 million people through June 2025, murder is down nearly 20%, while violent and property crime are both down more than 10% each. The sample covers around 30% of the U.S. population and historically has captured half of the murders committed nationwide in a given year. So it's a strong indicator for the direction of crime in the U.S. as a whole, not just for cities or counties represented by the sample. Murder has finally fallen below pre-COVID levels, with fewer murders through June 2025 than in the first half of 2019. We have seen historic drops in murder in places like Baltimore, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Detroit, which recorded fewer murders through June this year than the first half of any year since the mid-1960s. Data from the RTCI shows the crime decline is a nationwide phenomenon in cities large and small, but also across all parts of the U.S. Okay, so one resource and set of data convincingly points in the direction of declining crime. Well, what do others say? The Gun Violence Archive, or GVA, a nonprofit group that uses media reports rather than police agency data to catalog shootings in the United States, also finds a large decline in gun-related crime across the United States this year. Shooting victims in the GVA were down more than 16% through June compared to the first half of 2024. Fatal shooting victims were down 13%, and non-fatal victims were down more than 18%. These double-digit decreases in gun-related crimes mimic what's happening in the RTCI for murder, which makes sense since roughly 80% of murders each year are committed with a firearm. Another important government agency that tracks homicides in relation to public health, the Center for Disease Control, or CDC, tells the same story of declining violence through 2024. While we don't yet have official data on homicides in 2025 from the CDC, early data from 2024 points to a nearly identical drop in homicides that year as reported by the Real-Time Crime Index and Gun Violence Archive. Murder fell at the fastest rate ever recorded in 2023, and it fell even faster in 2024. We won't know for certain until late 2026, but as of mid-year, it appears that 2025 will be the third straight year with a record decline. The drop in murder, combined with large drops in violent crime, indicate that the United States is becoming a less violent place. Now, that's great news about the country as a whole, but it doesn't reveal some of the nuances we've seen in particular crime trends. For example, something really unusual happened with motor vehicle thefts recently, and it's all because of TikTok. Stay tuned to find out more in the next episode of Aggregated, the numbers behind crime.